Get the most D&D in your life and plug your earbuds in to hang out with your new group of best friends, Dungeons & Dragons, a D&D 5th edition actual play podcast. 4 friends get together weekly to weave a mysterious, wonderful, and hilarious ongoing tale of adventurers trying to miraculously save the world from the dastardly cult of the dragon, but messing it up at nearly every turn. With over 75 episodes available, you can start at the top or listen to the recaps to get you caught up on the latest adventures. Listen to Dungeons & Dragons every Wednesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, or at dumbgeons.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons & Dragons, from winter windstorms to wicked wolves, and today we're talking about the Warforged.
The Dungeoncast. All right, Brian.
Hey.
It's finally time to actually delve into a little bit of Eberron lore.
A race. It's been a while.
Yeah, what was the last race we did? Minotaurs. Not a while.
Oh, not a while.
Not a while at all.
But
they're kind of a monster.
Had it been a long time before that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Either way, I'm wrong.
Right. Well, today we're talking about Warforged, and they are an original race designed for the Eberron setting. So before we get into the Warforged, let's talk a little bit about what the Eberron setting is. Eberron will get its own episode, and I've been kind of putting it off because it's a really big episode. It's going to take a lot of research. And I actually came to the conclusion that one of the best ways to ease into it is we're going to actually do all the Eberron specific races first. So you're going to get kind of like little pictures or like little windows into the world of Eberron.
Right.
And we're going to slowly kind of build around those, and then we'll get to the Eberron
I was going to
episode.
say, it's like, how do you do a podcast about planet Earth?
Right. It's like, where do we start? There's so much to do.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get a little bit of it in each of these episodes, so I don't feel so guilty when we don't talk too much about the Warforged in the Eberron episode.
Some of the little bitty people on this planet talk about something called quantum physics. Let's talk about that for 10 minutes.
Right.
And then we'll never fucking get through anything.
Yeah, we'll never stop.
Right.
So Eberron is one of the newest D&D settings. It was actually made in 2004 by Keith Baker.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Keith. It is actually the result of a contest held by Wizards of the Coast to find a new campaign setting.
Oh, wow.
And it actually beat out roughly 10,000 other entries.
Oh, wow.
And that's not
Among
too
10,000 worlds, yours was chosen.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's not too surprising because it's fucking really dope.
Yeah, every time I have to do any research and it comes up Eberron, I'm pleasantly surprised by what I find.
Yeah, it's definitely probably my top 3 favorite settings, maybe even my number 1 if it wasn't Dragonlance already.
Okay.
But it is a very unique setting in that it differs from the other more traditional D&D settings in both its fundamental structure and its inclusion of non-fantasy elements. Like I said, we will do an Eberron episode, but for now, I will describe the setting as a gritty Pulp Fiction style setting meant for high-action dark fantasy stories. It has many steampunkish elements and aesthetics, including trains, machinery, and industry. But even though it's got all this technology, if you will, magic is very pervasive. It pervades nearly every aspect of Eberron life. And one of the things that kind of stresses, the people of Eberron have access to modern luxuries that don't exist in either medieval fantasy or the real world. A lot of really unique things go on.
Cool.
And the idea is like, how would magic change society and whatnot? So, yeah.
Nice concept.
It is responsible for the creation of a lot of unique, fun favorite races and classes, including Warforged.
Yes.
So Warforged are a race of humanoid constructs. They are made of metal, stone, and wooden fibers. Their core is a skeleton made of metal and stone, with the wooden fibers acting as a muscular system kind of in between. Covering this is a shell of metal and stone plates. An internal network of tubes runs through a Warforged's body, filled with a blood-like liquid designed to both lubricate and nourish their systems. Their hands are made up of 2 thick fingers and a thumb. Their feet only have 2 broad toes. Their faces are humanish metal helms with toothless jaws, lacking in noses, and also hair. Obviously, they're robots. It'd be weird to put hair on a Warforged.
Really?
I mean,
so?
It would look a little odd, I suppose.
Well, with that description, then I guess it would have to be maybe like the hair of like a tree folk or a dryad or something like that.
Yeah, I guess so. But like Warforged look more metal than anything. Although you see the wooden fibers, beneath the metal shell.
They have a Metallica shirt on.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
A fucking Warforged metal band would be dope.
Oh yeah.
So each Warforged,
not on the fingers.
Guess not. No, they don't. I mean, make a good drummer though. So each Warforged have a unique symbol carved into their foreheads called Gulra. They're generally created with a genderless body, but their forms can be modified and altered by artificers or themselves, really.
Cool.
So, yeah. Despite being artificial creations, Warforged are fully sentient, alive, conscious beings with personality, psychology, and mentality. They're people.
Okay. Why the quotations around alive?
Well, they are alive, but they're not biologically alive. Like, okay, so like, is an AI, a fully fledged AI in a robot body, alive?
Is that what this is?
Kinda.
But what are its origins?
It's kind of mysterious because like the process of their making isn't really spelled out. It's just kind of like there was this weird breakthrough. We're going to kind of get into that.
So they are kind of like a man-made? Because AI is man-made, so that's hard to say. I think that would impede your argument.
I'm not sure where their consciousness comes from, but they do have it.
Right.
But their bodies aren't living. They're not biological. They don't self-heal. They don't need air to breathe. They don't need food to eat. So like...
Oh, so they're not even really like the Transformers.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
So in the world of Eberron, Warforged are actually a fairly new development in the history. They were created, as their name would imply, for the purposes of war during the centuries-long conflict known as the Last War. The Last War is kind of the linchpin historical event of Eberron, in which the kingdom of Galifar broke out into civil war over the succession of the throne. It broke up into 5 nations that fought for over 100 years.
Okay.
During that conflict, House Cannith reaped the benefits by providing weapons and arms to all sides. This includes some proto-Warforged magical constructs and whatnot. House Cannith had been pouring resources into creating artificial sentient soldiers for like quite some time, but finally made a breakthrough roughly 33 years before the current timeline in the Eberron setting.
Oh, okay.
Using ancient magics and secret knowledge, House Cannith created the first Warforged via their secret manufacturing vessels known as Creation Forges. And like all their other technology, they sold to all sides.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So the Warforged quickly came to dominate the war efforts as perfect elite soldiers, and they slowly began to take all roles within the army. Like they started off as like grunts and maybe like specialized soldiers, but quickly they became scouts, captains, and eventually they became full-on commanders. And it was actually kind of a controversial move. I can't remember which nation did it, but like they made a Warforged with like one of the first generals.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, because they were just so goddamn good at it because it's what they're trained to do. So yeah, eventually the war did come to an end. A 5-way stalemate, in fact, sealed with a treaty called the Treaty of Thronehold. Within the treaty was an agreement to set all Warforged free and to forbid the creation of any more, and the order for all Creation Forges to be destroyed. Yeah. So in Eberron, there theoretically is a finite number of Warforged.
Right.
And they're all aged between 33 years and 2 years old.
Yes, they would have to be,
yeah,
right?
because of the
length
timeline.
of the war.
Yeah, exactly. And like when they were created and the current timeline now.
If you have one more war, you're still good because you can be like, that was the last war, you know? But after the second war after that, it's like, it stops making sense.
It does. It does super stop.
We've definitely had 2 since then. So, and it wasn't the one before this one.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like how they called World War I the war to end all wars. Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, there was a part 2.
There was a part 2. There was a sequel. It was even bigger and badder. Where was I? Oh yeah. So in a way, the race of the Warforged are both figuratively and in some cases literally in their infancy, because there's some Warforged that are only a year or 2 old.
Yeah, just little babies.
There's little babies. So all Warforged are / were created fully formed from Creation Forges at birth. At the moment of their awakening, they can fully understand the language of their creator and they know how to move their bodies. In all other respects, though, the newly formed Warforged is a completely blank slate.
Okay. So like if a gnome made one, then it would know gnomish.
I guess so.
Just because.
Here's the thing though. They were only created by House Cannith, and House Cannith are humans.
Yeah, so they all speak common.
So like that's a useless sentence to me.
Yeah, because you didn't test that. That's not proven.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, I'm not super familiar with Eberron. Maybe there's something like, no, technically, this one Warforged was created by an elven family, and like, I don't fucking know,
it spoke Elvish and Common.
Yeah, there we go. Because that's what everyone speaks.
Yeah.
God damn it. Where was I? Oh yeah, so they're completely blank slates. So
what, you just start like dumping information into them?
they have literally no knowledge of the world, no concept of good or evil. They don't even know like lies or truth. None of that is a thing to them.
Oh shoot.
So during their first few months, Warforged are extremely adaptable and receptive to new skills, new knowledge, etc. House Cannith heavily regulated regiments of instruction for the Warforged, focusing them on being obedient soldiers, proficient in weapons, tactics, command structure, enemy recognition, and how to improvise on the battlefield.
Cool.
This training mostly took place as elaborate war games.
Oh, nice. That makes sense.
And like all Warforged share this origin in history, because like they were all born in the same place from the same people to do the same thing. So this is what happened to all of them. If you're running them in Eberron, obviously you can run Warforged outside of Eberron. That's the only way I've ever done Warforged. So this is just, we're talking about them in the setting they were created.
Right. Forged for war.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about these war games and whatnot, but before we do that, we're going to take a short rest.
Okay, cool. Hey everybody, welcome to the part of the episode we're not talking about the last thing we're talking about. We're talking about this new thing. It looks like light shining in between the clouds on like a stormy day. It's my love for you.
And mine.
Yeah.
I too.
Him.
Yes.
You over there. Tell them of your love.
It exists.
They do exist. It's a fucking M&M's commercial. Okay, so let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Like the game?
Yeah.
Like our game. Like the game that we're running on the YouTube channel.
Sometimes we play Dungeons and Dragons.
We do, and it's a show called Super Quest Saga, and you can find it right here on the Dungeoncast YouTube channel. And it's a D&D game, but it's set in space, and there's a lot of futuristic bullshit going down.
Space,
indeed. I believe you guys are right now on a huge asteroid metropolis.
Asteroid
getting
City.
Involved in some weird gangs and smuggler shit, and it's a lot of fun.
Suspiciously sounds like Metropolis, like an asteroid. Wait, no, what did I just say?
What did you just say?
I meant to say something else, and now it's gone from me.
Well, I mean, it is a metropolis, and the city in DC, Metropolis, is called Metropolis.
Oh, man.
So,
my brain fell
Superman City is essentially called City.
Yes. My brain fell into the quicksand. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I got to dig it back out.
It's okay. But if you guys want to see us playing some D&D, I suggest you check it out. And I'm not sure if it already is at this point.
Let's just talk about it because it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's also a podcast.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it should be on literally any podcast app out there that you possibly have or use.
Yeah. A quick asterisk because it's not official. I sent it to iTunes. Let's pray to the Apple gods because they like things very specific.
Right, they do. But it should be approved.
It's on our SoundCloud. We have another SoundCloud page that we made, and it's the Super Quest Saga SoundCloud page. It will be available everywhere once iTunes says it can.
And it probably already is.
It probably already is.
And the links will be in the description. And, we were listening to feedback, and a lot of you guys wanted us to turn it into an audio podcast, so we did. And if you guys could return the favor and go check it out and leave a review, because we'd really like to get Super Quest Saga onto the iTunes charts.
In the right way, yeah. And that means we need reviews. We need you to go to iTunes specifically, not Podbean or Stitcher, etc. Go to iTunes and leave a review. It would help us so much to get off on the right foot with that podcast.
It really would. Like
thank you to everybody on YouTube for stepping up, and you guys really are making the show like visible, and that's really great.
Yeah, and we've been listening to your feedback, and we love that you want it to be an audio podcast. So the first few weeks of any podcast life are the most important. They're going to basically. Apple's algorithms really judge a podcast harshly in how it performs in the first few weeks. So the more views and reviews it gets, the better for everyone.
Yeah. If you go to a podcast page and it's not like decked out with art, it's because Apple doesn't let you.
Yeah, basically.
I was looking into that and I was like, dude, Apple, why? Why can't we all have this? But it's only if Apple says you can.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is.
I would like to have page art.
Indeed.
On something.
Well, with that being said, I think we can get back to the show.
Let's get back to the show.
All right. We've returned. And let's talk about more Warforged stuff. So I believe we left off with the war games.
It's a podcast, Will.
It's
everywhere.
It is. So these war games are where most Warforged felt their first emotions, usually emotions of pride from like victory, shame from losing, joy, jealousy, and fear. During the war, they learned the feelings of camaraderie between allies and hatred of the enemy. So like slowly over the course of their lives, they became people, really.
So that just cognitive repetition of their surroundings imprinted on them pretty much is what I'm getting from that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, in the end, like they're just people. They learn, they feel.
And you're incorporated with humans. You're having the human experience in probably a lot of ways other than like,
I would
say respect might be a weird issue for them.
What do you mean?
Like, I don't know. How are they treated amongst the other soldiers?
Amongst the other soldiers, like, fairly well. I mean, there is some racism against them, which we'll talk about later, but that's mostly reserved for after the war.
Oh, okay.
During the war, they were making
you're my brother
each
in
side
arms.
Stronger. Yeah. And like they are people. So they were getting nicknames from the people as well.
There you go.
From their squads. Yeah.
That paints me a decent picture.
Right.
If you name something, you love it secretly, deep down.
Right. Also, throughout the war, Warforged were often crafted with specialty in mind. So 5e provides us with 3 types of Warforged that you can make, like they're kind of like subraces. There's the Juggernaut, the Skirmisher, and the Envoy, and each was just obviously designed for a different capability.
Like the Master Chiefs.
I guess so, kind of. When the war ended, thousands of Warforged were left bereft of structure in their lives, of leadership, and of purpose. It said that many stood at attention for weeks out on the battlefield, awaiting orders that never came.
Aww.
But eventually, all Warforged were forced to decide what to do with themselves and with their newly bestowed freedom.
Oh, that's like a pet that like its owner leaves and doesn't come back and it's been waiting.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
It is a bit sad. So Warforged were built to serve with a clearly defined function. And because of this, many Warforged kind of struggle to find a place in the post-war world. Many end up taking a life of mercenaries or adventurers to do what they do best, which is, protect people, combat things, complete contracts, etc. Others completely rejected war and sought out like jobs of crafting or servant positions or physical labor. Just anything that they could just do. Warforged need to do something. When it comes to their needs, there isn't much to drive them. Like they don't age, they don't need food, they don't need water, they don't need air, but they do need shelter and they need money for repairs and for shelter. Most importantly of all, they need something to do, like I was just saying. Their bodies never tire and they don't need sleep. So that's a lot of time to be very, very bored.
Yeah.
And like any other like humanoid or living thing with sentience, without mental stimulation, Warforged, they go crazy.
Oh man, I'm picturing a scene with a Warforged like working for a shop, and the shop owner comes at like 11 o'clock at night because they forgot their key to their house or whatever.
Right.
And the Warforged is in there like organizing boxes and sweeping, and they're like, "What are you doing, Johnny? It's past clothing." It's like, "Oh, somebody's got to pay the bills." And they're like, "Johnny, you can go home." And it's like, "I need to do something. Leave me here."
Snaps the room.
Yeah.
Don't you say that to me. I mean, yeah, sure. You could definitely see it like that.
That's what entered my brain.
That's hilarious. So a lot of Warforged find purpose in their work. It's common. It's like they were created to do work, so it's what they like to do. It's how they were raised in a way. Warforged have wide and varying personalities and dispositions, but generally speaking, they tend to be very reserved. They tend to be unemotional. And it's not that they don't feel these emotions, it's just they aren't inclined at displaying them. Plus, they don't have faces that like make facial expressions. Yeah. So like even if they would express it in like a facial expression, they can't, so they don't.
They're just like, "I'm fine."
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, okay. And you believe them.
Right, exactly.
But really,
like you could tell. Well, it said that like if a Warforged is like really angry or it feels very strong emotion, like their eyes will kind of like light up.
Oh, cool.
So like there's a little bit.
You're going to be like,
display.
they just start to shake.
The clatter. And no, not that. I mean, maybe, but no, not really. Where was I? So, their disposition. Most Warforged are singularly minded. They prefer to focus on a task for an extended period of time. They take comfort in having something to do and orders to take. Other more free-thinking Warforged, though, relish in their freedom of orders, and they pursue like more abstract concepts like philosophy. Some even pursue art or just curiosity in general, like discovery, exploration, science, machinery, stuff like that. Like invention, I guess is what I'm trying to say there.
Like go get on a boat with like a ship captain interested in exploration.
Yeah,
like
see
that.
The world, right? These are the type of Warforged that get a little bit more introspective, and they're like, "Why am I here? Like, do I have a soul, like as an artificial being? Should we Warforged have our own society, our own culture? Should we carve out our own nation? Like, should we seek out to make more Warforged? Like, all the creation forges were destroyed. How does that make me feel? Like, I guess what I'm saying here is that Warforged are just people. They come in many colors, many sizes, many dispositions, many beliefs. And,
yes.
And I think the Eberron books make a really good point of that. So yeah.
Okay. I bet you there's one that like gets instructions to like walk packages to like distant locations just to keep them busy. Like,
Yeah, I can see that definitely. Like we got to keep old Greg busy.
yeah.
so.
Do they tire? Do they?
No, they don't physically tire.
yeah,
They
'cause they don't need
mentally,
sleep,
they
right?
will mentally tire, and they do have to like take like low activity for like 8 hours.
They
or so.
meditate, yeah.
But other than that, no, their bodies do not tire.
So
they do not
walking is the
sleep.
perfect thing for them.
Yeah.
Because you can meditate in a way walking, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
That's true. I don't know if it counts as low level activity walking.
No, I mean, low level activity I've seen in 5e is quantified by like reading, keeping watch, that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know. Reading's not low level activity for your brain necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like watching slow TV.
I mean, I would allow it in my game. Like,
Sure.
yeah, why not? So when it comes to culture, some Warforged keep themselves completely separate from society, and some keep to their own. Like I'd said that a lot of Warforged ended up just staying in their squads because it's what they knew, and they just kind of roll about, whether that's as mercenary work or maybe they go into town and they all get a job at a factory. Like, but they stick together. While others do the complete opposite, and they try and fully assimilate with the region by adopting the clothing and even the accent and customs of their neighbors.
They're just playing hacky sack out in the street.
Are you from London?
Are you from London? Pass me the joint. No bogarting. All right.
Right. So yeah, that happens. Where was I? It's hilarious. Okay, so though many find success in finding lives amongst the other races, many do not, or many have a difficult time due to racism from the squishier races, if you will. Yeah. So there's two things here that kind of feed into this. In a lot of ways, the Warforged became the face of the last war. Like when they were introduced to the war, it changed everything, and they really began to dominate it. And
Like the Master Chiefs.
kind of like the Master Chiefs, yeah, sure. And because of this, peoples of all nations have suffered at the hands of these constructs, and many still hold fear and resentments against the Warforged for this reason. They see them as instruments of death and not people. The second thing is because Warforged are cheap, tireless, low maintenance, low demand labor that have begun to take the jobs of other humanoids en masse. This has led to an intense amount of resentment from the other races who would see the Warforged banned from their communities for ruining the economy.
So weird.
Yeah, so I mean, it's automation. You know,
Yeah.
they're struggling with automation. It makes sense. Like the Warforged need and want work, and businesses are going to hire the cheapest, best labor they can, which is always going to be the Warforged. But Warforged don't need to eat. People need to eat. So these people are going to be real goddamn angry that they're not getting money to feed their family.
Yeah, it's like how we thought AI would have taken over by now, but AI is actually kind of dumb on like a consumer
Right.
level at the moment.
It is.
Yeah.
But automation is not, and it is
Yeah.
coming. So I think that's a very real world problem, and I kind of appreciate that about Eberron. About nothing's black and
commentary.
white. So there's a little bit of social commentary, and the world feels so like real and lived in compared to a lot of the other settings. I think it's because it was made by basically one guy. It's this
Sure.
real cohesive thing.
Okay.
While other settings were kind of like hodgepodge over time by
Like a
different
comic
people.
book.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways. All Warforged were originally given numerical designations upon creation, but adopted nicknames given to them by their comrades at war. So the name examples that are given are like Blade, Church, Hammer, Lucky, Pierce, Rusty, Scout. Like cool,
Okay.
like single syllable like nicknames that you would call out during like a wartime effort. or
Yeah, that
whatever.
makes sense.
So any questions about Warforged before we get into the 5e stats?
No, we've taken some liberties with Warforged in our character creation segments of the show. Like, there was that monk that I put in a Warforged body. It seems that that's a repetitive thing in my repertoire of dungeon mastering. Is like I hollowed out one and put a guy in it.
Right. Well, I think that's a common thing to do with Warforged because
Okay.
it's like they are essentially an artificial shell with a soul.
Right.
Like I think
There's like a
yeah.
mechanical part of them that you could probably like rework to operate from within some level. Or,
I mean, again, I've never ran a Warforged in Eberron setting. I love Eberron setting. I take a lot of things from Eberron setting, but I always run my own like unique settings, like my own custom ones.
So we're never going to really run Eberron, you know?
No, but like, okay, so I once ran a Warforged paladin. His name was Decimus Ex Virtus, and like I kind of took a bit from Eberron, where like he was a soldier construct created for war. Basically, there was like an archmage, and he was creating these things for a war. He was kind of like a Vecna character. Like he held like a kingdom region.
Sure.
And he was waging war. And Decimus was his 10th creation, thus Decimus. You know.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of stuff happened. The Archwizard was overthrown. Decimus was kind of left in like a shutdown period for 100 years, and then he ended up getting like reawakened by some random thing. And
that's like Zero.
Mega Man. Oh yeah, is it? I don't know, but so he ends up like wandering the land, lost, and like
Zero.
He ends up protecting a priest on the road from like orcs and whatnot.
Okay.
And
that's just like Zero, except it's not a priest. It's a scientist.
Oh,
okay,
really?
Go ahead.
I swear to God, I've never like really played Mega Man, but where was I? So
Mega Man's a robot.
So the priest was a priest of Pelor.
Okay.
God of the sun and light and a bunch of other bullshit. And basically, they became friends, and the priest kind of like taught Decimus like the teachings of his god, and Decimus kind of came to the conclusion of like, I think I have a soul, and I agree with the teachings of your god, so I want him to be my god. And he became a paladin of Pelor slowly but surely. And yeah, that was Decimus Exvertus. He was really fucking fun, and he had like 25 AC at level 2, so it was great.
I could continue to draw parallels, and it would just sound like somebody lifted. Either for whichever one came out first. I don't know which one came out first, but Mega Man Zero series or this story. I don't know. There's just I could continue to draw parallels, and you might call them convoluted, but
okay,
here I am.
Well, that being said, let's get to the 5e stat block for the Race of Warforged. Now, these stats come from a PDF, an official PDF called Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron. Now, this PDF I have mixed feelings about, but I mostly love it, and it's an interesting thing because it's number one, it's official, but number two, it's only PDF. You can't buy a physical copy. But number three, it's a living document. So it's technically in a soft playtest.
Okay.
So they're going to adjust some things, but when they do it, they're going to adjust the PDF. Anyone who's bought it already can just download the update.
Okay.
And it will update their PDF. And then eventually I think there will be a hardcover. But so this is like 85% official. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it's subject to change.
It's a really good book. I went through the whole thing.
Here's the skelly bones of this.
Yeah. So
what it's going to represent.
So as a Warforged, you get a +1 in Constitution out the gate. Your alignment and age and all that stuff is kind of up to you. Your size is going to be medium. Most Warforged stand between 5 feet and 6.5 feet tall. Their speed is 30 feet, and you're going to get a feature called Warforged Resilience. You were created to have remarkable fortitude, represented by the following benefits. You have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned, and you have resistance to poison damage. You are immune to disease. You do not need to eat, drink, or breathe. You do not need to sleep, and don't suffer the effects of exhaustion due to lack of rest. And magic can't put you to sleep.
Neat. That's good.
That in itself is actually a really powerful feature.
Yeah, you're like super elf. You're like an elf dwarf.
Yeah, you're like an elf dwarf.
Yeah.
You're already an elf and dwarf put together. You also get a feature called Sentry's Rest. When you take a long rest, you must spend at least 6 hours in an inactive, motionless state rather than sleeping. In this state, you appear inert, but it does not render you unconscious, and you can see and hear as normal. So there's trance from elves, basically.
So you're playing possum a little bit there. You're like you could like pretend to be.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You could ambush somebody like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You said what did you call it?
I said Sentry's West.
Sentry's West. And immediately it was like that sounds like a nice place to stay the night. And then you said Sentry's Rest, and I was like that sounds like an even nicer place to stay the night.
That's hilarious. You also get a feature called Integrated Protection. So your body has built-in defensive layers, which determine your armor class. You gain no benefit from wearing armor, but if you're using a shield, you apply its bonus as normal. You can alter your body to enter different defensive modes each time you finish a long rest. Choose one mode to adopt from the integrated protection table, provided you meet the mode's prerequisite. So the integrated protection modes there's 3 of them. There's dark wood core, composite plating, and heavy plating. Dark wood core gives you 11 plus your dex mod, add proficiency bonus if proficient in light armor. So there that is. That's actually really good. Holy shit. You get to add your proficiency bonus?
I mean,
you don't get to do that normally, do you?
I don't think so.
No, because if
You
you have
become
studded,
proficient in
if you
armor,
have studded leather, what is that? 12 plus your dex, and that's that. With this, it's 11 plus your dex plus your proficiency bonus.
So it scales.
That's shit. Then you get composite plating, which is like a medium armor. 13 plus your dex mod plus your proficiency bonus. This seems super stacked. And then last, you get heavy plating, which is 16 plus proficiency bonus, disadvantage on dexterity stealth checks.
So what, in the late levels, you're just going to have like 20 plus AC?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, okay, you got to understand, these guys can't put on plate.
Yeah, but like...
So, okay, let's go over Darkwood Core real quick. So let's say you're making like a rogue, right? And you start with 16 dexterity. So that's a +3. So that's 11 plus 3, and your proficiency bonus is a +2. So that's 14. That's 16 AC at level 1. That's pretty good for a rogue.
But it's going to...
That's going to go up.
At level 4, you have...
At level 4, you turn that into an 18, and then you get another +1. So that's going to be +2. So now you're going to be a 20 AC at level 4. For a rogue. That is
overpowered.
Beast as fuck.
Yeah. That's too much AC.
Well, like I said, this is technically a playtest.
Yeah.
So moving on.
I want you all to love it. Here's some broken stuff.
So let's get into the sub races. The first one they provide is called Envoy. As an Envoy, you were designed with a certain specialized function in mind. You might be an assassin, a healer, or an entertainer, to name a few possibilities. So with this sub race, you get 2 different ability scores increased by 1. So this is kind of like a customizable one. So like you could put it into intelligence or charisma or whatever you want. You also get a feature called specialized design. You gain 1 skill proficiency of your choice, 1 tool proficiency of your choice, and fluency in 1 language of your choice. That's really powerful. This is like you already got a bunch of really good features, and these are just more good features.
Yeah, I mean they're the more standard style features.
Yeah, it reminds me of like half elf for human.
Right.
And then finally for Envoy, you get integrated tool. Choose 1 tool you're proficient with. This tool is integrated into your body, and you double your proficiency bonus for any ability checks you make.
Okay, we're in cross the line territory for me again.
Right. This is like, I got a lockpick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like my hand.
I mean, it's super cool.
My hand turns into a crossbow. Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
No, tool, not weapon. But yes, I understand what you're
tools
saying.
Tools are weapons.
No, tools are not designated
I know.
as weapons. But it is really cool. But yeah, I think this is blatantly overpowered.
My hand turns into a calligrapher's brush.
Why not? Why not?
I have an arm cannon. It's a beer bong.
Yeah, there you
go. It's a brewer's kit. Get ready.
So next, let's
shoot some barley into this barrel.
So next, let's talk about the Juggernaut. You're an imposing war machine built for close combat and raw might. You tower over your comrades. Juggernaut Warforged stand between 6 and 7 feet in height and can weigh up to 450 pounds.
Okay.
You're going to gain a +2 to strength. So remember, you get that +1 to con, +2 to strength. So you're going to build an amazing barbarian Warforged. Iron Fists. When you make an unarmed strike, you can deal 1d4 plus your strength modifier, bludgeoning damage instead of normal damage. Powerful build, you count as 1 size larger when determining your carrying capacity and the weight you can push, drag, or lift. I'll be honest, I think you can make an Envoy Warforged a way better fighter than this Juggernaut. I'm sorry, you just can. Because like the Juggernaut, you get an unarmed strike and you can lift heavy shit. But that +2 to strength is great, but like as an Envoy, you get a +1 to 2 different ability scores of your choice. Like, I'll take a -1 for these like extra skills and bullshit.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just me.
Plus, like, I hate that little text they added where you have to role play it with an Australian accent, and when you introduce yourself, you have to call people a bitch.
What are you talking about? What? I don't understand your reference.
You don't remember when they were like, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch"?
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be a British accent, by the way.
Oh, he sounds Australian.
Oh, it's British.
Because I know in the original YouTube video, he's like, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch."
Yeah.
But in the movie, when they incorporated him, they gave him because it was so popular, it was viral, so they made him say that, and he was like, "I'm the Juggernaut."
I think that was
bitch.
like the first time in my life where I saw like the internet crossover into like
that was a big one,
mainstream pop culture.
That was a big one for sure.
That was a weird moment.
It was also the first time I've seen like, I guess Kitty Pryde could beat the Juggernaut.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Last subrace, Skirmisher. You were built to scout the edges of battle and outmaneuver your enemies. You are lean and designed for speed.
Nice.
Your dexterity increases by 2.
Because your feet are roller skates.
Indeed. You have the Swift ability or feature called Swift. Your walking speed is increased by 5, so you have 35 walking speed. That's pretty cool. I mean,
35 rolling speed.
Sure.
It's like Heelys. It's not a full skate.
And finally, you get a feature called Light Step. When you are traveling alone for an extended period of time, 1 hour or more, you can move stealthily at a normal pace rather than a slow
Hey, that's
pace.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tracking.
I'm sure it'll come in handy, especially if you go Ranger or something like that. Ranger Warforged would be kind of cool.
Even Rogue.
Or Rogue, yeah. So any questions about Warforged?
Oh man, what's that Rogue class? Is it called Scout?
I think Scout. Yeah,
from
Scout.
Skag?
Yeah, from Skag. Yeah,
That would seem pretty cool for that.
yeah, that would mesh really well. Absolutely.
Very military-esque and soldier background.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a lot of stuff because Eberron takes like from the normal background pool, right? Like the player's handbook stuff.
I would imagine so.
It's meant
yes,
to
it
be
would kind of have to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You can do. I mean, if you're playing in Eberron, that sounds like probably what you would go with for a character build to stay.
I think that would be a pretty
canon.
standard one. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I guess we can get ready for a long rest.
Yeah,
And,
we can.
Yeah. And again, I would like to let everyone know that we have a sister channel called TDC Plays, where me, Brian, my sister Kiki, and the rest of us at the Dungeoncast get together, play some video games. Yeah. We got Smash, we got Pokemon, we got Zelda. We got more stuff coming down the pipeline, and it's a lot of fun.
Lots
and,
of things.
Yeah, if you like those things, check it out. The link is in the description.
Yeah, there's also links in the description for our Discord if you'd like to come have good conversations about Dungeons and Dragons, and etc. Go there. There's a lot of great people there. Thanks to all our mods, and thank you, Jack. You're doing great.
Yeah,
stuff,
thanks, Jack.
bud.
You're doing good stuff. Man.
Let's see. Find Will on Twitter at the Dungeoncast. Find me on Instagram, the Dungeoncast. Find us at gmail.com. It's the Dungeoncast at gmail.com. Like to make it easy on you folks.
Indeed.
Slide into our DMs. We love that shit. What else?
I don't know. I think that's
There's
it.
got to be something we're missing.
No, I think we covered it all.
Patreon.
Oh yeah, there's that.
We have one. Go check
do.
it out. There's lots of cool bonus content.
There is.
This has been the Dungeoncast.
Indeed. So with that, I think we're gonna call it a game.
Call it a game.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
The Dungeoncast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dungeoncast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
This is the podcast where we talk about everything Dungeons and Dragons, from winter windstorms to wicked wolves. And today we're talking about whoa.
What are we talking about, Brad?
Whoa. Oh, W word. I don't know.
Oh, you just forgot.
Yeah.
I thought you were doing a bit.
No.
I thought you were like about to dubstep this shit. Like I'm not even playing. Oh shit.
Nope, I forgot. What are we
It's
talking about?
Warforged. We're
Oh
talking
my
about
god, we just had a
Warforged.
fucking conversation
Oh my
about it.
God, that's hilarious.
How do I do that in this moment? I should just have written Warforged right
It
there.
happens to the best of us. I never stopped recording.
Me either.